3 ways to guarantee mentoring success at your organization. Now, this webinar is the 4th of a series of complimentary webinars where we explore with you the many ways that mentoring can facilitate your talent development strategy. To those of you who are at any of our previous webinars, thanks for joining us again, and we hope you enjoy today's discussion. I'm Crystal Ding, and I'm bringing this webinar to you along with my colleague, Judy Corner, Director of Consulting Services at Insala. Over the past 20 years, Judy's designed and delivered mentoring workshops, mentor-mentee training, and a program implementation process called High Impact Mentoring, which she's successfully implemented at a wide range of organizations. And today, Judy's going to talk with you about some great advice on the factors that contribute to mentoring success at your organization. Today, we'll have a half-hour presentation followed by another half-hour of questions and answers. And this is really an opportunity for you to be able to ask Judy any questions you might have. Now, before we move on, let me just explain to you some of the guidelines for today's webinar. First, you'll be muted during the presentation for optimal audio performance. During the presentation, we'll be inviting you to participate in a number of polls, which will pop up on your screen when the time comes. Also, we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the discussion by typing them in the questions window at the lower portion of the GoToMeeting toolbar. And after today's presentation, you'll receive a recording of the webinar, which will include both audio and slides. Now, with that said, I'm just going to hand it over to Judy, who's going to tell you a little bit more about how to make your mentoring program as successful as possible. Judy?
Thank you, Crystal. And welcome back to everybody. To those of you who are joining us for the first time, we welcome you in. And for those of you who have seen some of our, or participated in some of our previous webinars, we'd like to welcome you back. As Crystal mentioned, we've had 3 previous webinars. Our first one was around how to implement a successful mentoring program. Our second one was around how mentoring supports and accelerates your onboarding process. And our third one that we did in October was around mentoring for diversity and inclusion. We invite you, if you have not been able to attend our first 3 webinars, to contact us at mentoringtalent.com/webinars, and we'll be glad to forward the information to you. Today, we're going to concentrate on 3 ways to guarantee mentoring success at your organization. In January, on Wednesday, January 26th, next year, we're going to have our next webinar, which is scheduled, called 7 Things I Wish I'd Known Before I Started My Mentoring Program. And what we want to do now, though, is we want to find out from you, what are some of the things that you'd like to find out in future webinars? And we always appreciate your feedback on that. So, Crystal, would you walk us through a poll and find out where our participants are coming from?
Thank you very much, Judy. So as you can see here, a poll just popped up on your screen asking, what additional topics would you like to learn more about? And here we want to know what are the topics that you're most interested in so we can make sure to deliver exciting and engaging materials for you. Are you more interested in building a business case for your mentoring program? The differences between coaching and mentoring? Mentoring as a strategic career development tool? Or using technology to maximize the efficiency of your program? Waiting for some responses to continue rolling in, and it looks like about half of our attendees actually indicate that mentoring as a strategic career development tool is the most popular answer. And so everyone wants to hear how mentoring can affect strategic career development.
Very good. Thank you, Crystal. And those will be the kinds of things we appreciate your feedback that we will take into consideration on our future webinars. I think that's a great topic because we consider mentoring to be a strategic business initiative. And so tying that to your career development program will be a very interesting topic. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. One of the things that we have done, because we continually do research and conduct our own needs analysis around the topic of mentoring, is we have actually done our own survey report. It actually started in May of last year, and we put the results together and calculated everything in October. And one of the things that we have done is we've created a report, and the type of individuals who want to read this report are going to be just about anybody, but anybody inside the organization that is interested in mentoring or interested in creating a mentoring program. The types of things that you're going to read about is how mentoring is used in organizations today, the perceptions of the program challenges and successes for those of you who have mentoring programs in place and those of you who are thinking about putting them in place, and again, those challenges that are anticipated in upcoming programs. Now, how can you get a free copy? If you will just complete the feedback questionnaire at the end of this webinar, we will be glad to send you a free copy of our mentoring survey report. So please take the time to complete that questionnaire at the end of the webinar, and we'll be glad to send you a complimentary copy of the report. So now what I'd like to do is to tell you a little bit about Ensala. We're a leading global provider of talent management solutions, specifically focusing in the areas of mentoring, career development, and career transition. We work with all sizes and types of organizations. We are a software-as-a-service technology. We also offer consulting services because we want to make sure that we can customize a solution for your organization that empowers you to meet all of the challenges that you have inside of your organization. So we welcome you to visit our website at ensala.com, and very specifically the website that we have created that is around mentoringtalent.com. A couple things that we feel that make Ensala kind of unique in what we do. First of all, we have a proven methodology that has 20 years of experience behind it. We have implemented this methodology in organizations as small as 250 and well over 100,000 throughout the world. And what we're able to do is organizations have used this methodology. It's had practical application. We know it works. So what we have been able to do is to take that 20 years of mentoring experience and then combine that with the 15 years of Ensala experience around talent management solutions and come up with the very best solution and methodology and process for you as an organization. We have subject matter experts that are continually working and doing research around mentoring so that we can make sure that we are offering our clients the most updated information around mentoring and the most updated solution for your mentoring initiative. We believe we provide sustainable as well as scalable products and services. As I mentioned, we work with all sizes of organizations, and even those organizations that are as small as 250 or those that are as large as many tens of thousands. You may be starting out with a phase 1 pilot program, and we can work with you to work with that pilot program as well as moving forward to the types of things that you want to do as you expand your initiative throughout your organization. The kind of things that we're going to talk about today and what you're going to be able to learn is, first of all, how to incorporate what we have learned are the 3 critical success factors into either your current mentoring program or for those of you that are looking to implement a mentoring program in the near future. We're also going to talk about how we have helped organizations generate these success factors to make sure that there is a positive outcome to your mentoring program, and then how specifically our high-impact mentoring solution can help you generate critical success factors and more. So the types of things that we have found as we have worked with our clients, as we have done our webinars, the questions we've received during our webinars from our clients and throughout our survey, the factors that we find that contribute to mentoring success that people want to know about is defining specific and relevant metrics for program success. This is absolutely vital. You need to obtain qualified and well-trained mentors, and people want to know how to do that. You need to ensure you've got high-quality mentor-mentee matches in what you're doing, and you need to create a mentee-driven development plan. When we talk about mentoring, we believe that it is mentee-driven. It's mentor-guided, but it is mentee-driven in what you're doing. You need to make sure that your process is voluntary and that people are participating from a voluntary and not a required standpoint. You need to emphasize there's a no fault withdrawal policy. In other words, you don't want to make sure that people, if you do have a mismatch, that people are stuck in those mentoring partnerships. And you want to make sure, because there can be many, many factors as to why you have a mismatch. So you want to make sure that people feel free to be able to leave a specific partnership and possibly be re-partnered with a different mentor or mentee. And then you want to make sure that there is good participant communication and all the ways that you do that. So again, as we went through and we talked with individuals within our many organizations, what we found were the 3 factors that were the most important. Were people wanted to know about how to define those metrics, how to obtain qualified and well-trained mentors, and how to ensure high-quality mentor matches. Why? Because these topics were addressed from the most common questions in our previous webinars, and again, from our mentoring, Insala mentoring survey. So we listen to what we hear from our webinar participants and the types of things that are going on. So again, what we're going to cover today is how to define specific metrics for your program success, how to obtain qualified and well-trained mentors, and how to ensure the best possible mentor-mentee matches. So what I'd like to do right now is turn this back over to Crystal. And Crystal, will you poll our audience on what they consider to be important?
Thanks very much, Judy. And as you all know, I think all of you guys are here to really find out about either all of these success factors and how to generate them in your own organization, or maybe 1 or 2. And there might be one that particularly you're thinking of that will be most challenging or most interesting. So I have 2 polls here, and the first poll is going to be for those of you in the audience who already have mentoring programs in place at your organization. So for those of you with a mentoring program already in place at your organization, which success factor do you think is most challenging to achieve? Is it defining specific metrics for mentoring program success, obtaining qualified and well-trained mentors, or ensuring the best possible mentor-mentee matches? And Judy, it looks like over half of our audience have chosen defining specific metrics for program success.
That's pretty common then.
And our next poll is going to be for those of you who would like to implement mentoring. And if you'd like to implement mentoring, you might have some things which you anticipate to be challenging. Now, for those of you who would like to implement mentoring in the future, which success factor do you think would be most challenging to achieve? Defining specific metrics for program success, obtaining qualified and well-trained mentors, or ensuring the best possible matches? And it looks like an overwhelming percentage of you, 62%, have also indicated that defining specific metrics for program success is a challenge that you anticipate as you go about creating your mentoring program. Judy, back to you.
Okay. So in both of these situations, whether you have a mentoring program already in place or whether you're looking to implement one in the future, it's those metrics. And so that's actually the first one that we're going to start with in doing this. So when you're thinking about defining the specific metrics for your program success, the things you need to consider are, number 1, what goals does your organization want to accomplish? And you need to be very specific about those. How can a mentoring program help achieve those goals? So you need to be specific about what it is your organization wants to accomplish with mentoring. And then what is it of what it is of those business goals can mentoring help achieve? And then based on that, what are some specific success metrics for the mentor, the mentee, and the organization? So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of walk you through a case study. And this is actually something that we went through with an organization and kind of walk you through how that goes. So one of the things that we do when we walk individuals through this process is, first of all, help them to design the business goal. Now, one of the things that many times happens is when we first bring this question out in our workshop is we'll get something on the order of, Well, what we'd like to do is to help our employees be better developed. You know, that's very important, and it's a very good wish, but it isn't a business goal. So we want to make sure that we get a very clearly defined business goal. So in this particular case, what we were able to do was to bring the client down that they wanted to increase sales, because if they increased sales, they would increase their market share. The next thing that we did was to talk to them about the fact that if that's what you want to do, what's the specific area you feel that mentoring can help in? Now, if they were able to accelerate their onboarding process of their new sales reps, they knew that would help them to increase sales and increase market share. So that was specifically the area we wanted to concentrate on with mentoring, was to accelerate that onboarding and that learning curve for their new sales reps. Now, then the next step that we took is we said, okay, based on that, then very specifically, what is it that would look like success for the mentee? Well, one of the very first things was there would be a decreased number of calls in which the mentee made a mistake. So what was beginning to happen is the mentee would be able to make the sales calls, they would be able to work with the prospects and customers, and they would make fewer mistakes during those calls, and they'd actually come up with better, faster answers in doing that. So then we wanted to look at, okay, then what would be a success factor for the mentor that we're working with these mentees? And what we found there was the mentor would receive a decreased number of mentee-initiated meetings over time. So in the beginning, what you were finding was the mentor and the mentee were meeting more often to discuss the kind of problems the mentee came up with when they were in a sales situation. Over time, what began to happen is that number was decreased. The mentee needed to come back to the mentor fewer times because they were beginning to get those answers. They knew how to handle the customer programs and the customer problems that were going to be coming up. In addition to that, one of the things we also found out is when the mentee did come back to talk to the mentor and to discuss and to learn about how to handle specific client situations, the types of situations were much more complex. So the types of questions that they were and problems they were working with the mentor in the beginning were very, very different than those they were coming to over a period of time and closer to the end of the mentor-mentee partnership. The ones that they were coming up after they'd received all this great learning from the mentor were much more complex. So number one, the mentee felt much more comfortable handling situations, and that those that they didn't were much more complex. So how did the organization measure success? They were actually able to have a faster time to productivity for the sales individuals and bring them up to speed faster. So then how we can help you be able to define those metrics is, number one, we have a mentoring readiness workshop that we call MORE. MORE stands for Mentoring, Organizational, Readiness, and Effectiveness. And what we're able to help you do in that workshop is to perfect that business case using the 5-step process that we just walked through. We also can help you incorporate some specific metrics that we have worked with clients over a 20-year history and give you some examples of specifically ways in which other clients have used their metrics and the things they can do, so we can help you get to that faster. By positioning this specific thing as a business case and a business solution, we also can help you maximize buy-in from your senior management, your key stakeholders. Because one of the things I mentioned from the very beginning is we believe that mentoring is a business strategy. And so by doing that and then being able to show how you're going to tie this to business objectives and how you're going to measure results, you will more quickly be able to obtain buy-in from your senior management. And then what we're also able to help you do is to consult with our subject matter experts to ensure that all the critical elements of your program are in place, which automatically gets your program up to speed faster. Now, a second success factor that people were wanting to have information on was, how do we have qualified and well-trained mentors? Well, some things you have to consider there is you've got to create a role profile that outlines the mentor responsibilities and the mentee responsibilities and exactly what is required from a skill and competency standpoint. You would never, ever ask anyone to take on a role or a job of any kind unless they understood what they were getting into. You have a job description for everything else, and you need to have some kind of a role profile or description for exactly what you're going to ask the mentor and the mentee to do in their role. You need to make sure that you select mentors based on their competency profile. And this actually comes in two areas. Number one, you want to make sure that the mentors that you pick actually have the skills and competencies to be a good mentor. One of the things that we find many times is that organizations will just let anybody be a mentor. There's a historical misperception that if someone's at a senior level in the organization, they'd automatically be a good mentor. And we're saying, no, that's not true. In addition to that, another common misperception is the fact that if someone was good at what they did, they'd automatically be a good mentor. And again, we're saying, no, that's not true. Because being good at what you do doesn't mean that you also have the listening skills, the coaching skills, the communication skills, all those types of things that you need to be a good mentor. So you need to make sure that you select mentors based on the competency profile of do they have the skills and competencies to be a good mentor, and then provide assessments to make sure that you identify specifically the mentor's area of expertise. Not just that they're good at project management, but specifically what types of project management, what level of project management. So being specific about that mentor's area of expertise can be very important. And then absolutely provide training to mentors on any critical topics, not only on those topics of what they need to do as a mentor, but you might find as you've gone through and you've done some of your assessments around your competencies and so on, you might find that there are some areas that some of your mentors need to have some extra training on, and you want to make sure that you provide training not only on how to be a good mentor and the experience they're going to be in, but you may need to tailor that training specifically around some of the competency areas that your mentors need help on. We actually had a type of situation that happened with a client. And one of the things that we were looking at was the turnover rate in a specific factory environment. And one of the things that we were finding was that the turnover rate in this factory environment was much higher than the rest of the organization. And the retention rate, again, was much lower, and the promotion rate was much lower. So what we were able to do, because this was a factory type of environment, is we very specifically qualified and trained our mentors based on a couple of different cultural competencies. One of those competencies had to do with the fact that the individuals who were in the factory and the manufacturing portion of the organization, there was a high Hispanic and a high American Indian population. So we wanted to make sure that our mentors were qualified in those type of cultural competencies, as well as understanding what the culture was like inside of the production and manufacturing environment. What we were able to do, because we were able to have good, qualified, and trained mentors, was the turnover rate dropped from 23% to 12% in this specific area. In addition to that, the kinds of things that we found out was that individuals who were promoted were actually really good at what they were doing because they had come from that manufacturing environment, and they were able to contribute a lot when they moved into the areas of finance, marketing, or sales in doing this. So what we're able to help you do with our high-impact mentoring process is benchmark those prospective mentors. Make sure that their qualifications, you can benchmark that against a proven role profile and a competency profile that we have perfected over this 20 years. In addition to that, what we're able to help you do is to provide assessments that will help you to qualify your mentors, and then not only around the skills and competencies, but specifically also to identify those areas of expertise. And again, I underline the word specifically, not generally, but specifically identifying those areas of expertise. Because one of the things we're going to find when we talk about our next success factor is ensuring your best matches has to do with that level of specificity. Finding out specifically where your mentors are qualified, their areas of expertise, and the areas that your mentees need. What we're able to do with our training program is give you access to cutting-edge training content created by our subject matter experts and bringing together all of the 20 years of expertise that we have in working with all types and sorts of our organizations. And we're also able to offer you that training in several different formats, workshop formats, webinar formats. So whatever we need to do to help fit your organization, your needs, we can put this in several different types of formats. Now, going on to our third success factor, which ties right into this, ensuring you get the best mentor-mentee matches. And what we're talking about here is I want to underline that word, the best mentoring matches. Because you might find that in your matching and pairing process, you've got some good mentoring matches, but we're going to talk about how to get the best mentoring matches. So what you need to make sure you do is you need to make sure you've got a program administrator to help conduct your matching and pairing. This becomes very important. We have a lot of organizations who start out by thinking, you know, we'll just let people kind of self-match. And, you know, you can get some good matches that way. But, again, to get the best mentoring matches, you want to make sure you've got a program administrator to help in that situation. You want to ensure that the process is voluntary. You cannot force someone to be a mentor or a mentee. And if you do, guess what? We're human beings. There's always going to be a gotcha in there. And if you try to make me do something I really don't want to do, I'm not going to be my best at what I'm going to do. So make sure that this process is voluntary. You need to obtain very critical mentor-mentee profile information. If you are going to get the best matches, you need to get as much information from your mentors and your mentees as possible to make sure you've got good matching and pairing. If you just try and throw people together without getting good quality profile information, then you're going to find that you're guessing as to whether this will be a good mentor-mentee match. So instead of guessing if you got a good match, let's make sure you are sure about that by obtaining all the information you need to do. We also suggest you deploy technology to help and support and accelerate your matching and pairing process. We work with organizations all the time in which they're telling us that it actually takes them weeks to do this matching and pairing process. They're using spreadsheets. They're using all kinds of Word documents. And what we can do is to show you how to deploy that technology so that those weeks of matching and pairing are turned into moments. And then what you also need to do is to ensure that your mentors and mentees are qualified. That's why this follows right on the tails of the things that we just talked about making sure that you've got good, qualified, and trained mentors and mentees. So again, these are all the things that you need to make sure that you think about as you go in to ensure you've got the best matching pairing. So let me tell you about a client that we had, and what they wanted to be able to do was to improve the efficiency of their mentor matching and pairing. Now, this happened to be a very specific university, and what they were doing was they were going to be matching and pairing students with their alumni process. And again, they talked about the fact that this used to take them weeks to be able to do this, and it was really a type of just wrenching type of process that they were going through. We showed them how to automate that matching and pairing process with our technology, and a couple of things began to happen. First of all, they reduced their administration time, and by reducing that administration time, they were able then to work with larger populations, and they were able to grow their mentor-mentee program. The point is, if it's taking you forever to try and match 25 or 30 mentors and mentees, you're probably not going to be real interested in growing your mentoring program. But if you're able to cut that administration time better than in half, then you're going to be able to grow your mentoring population in what you're doing. This is an example of our online matching and pairing tool. This gives you an idea. We have those tools available to be able to match and pair your mentors and mentees through our high-impact mentoring software. You can do this with unlimited pairs using customizable criteria that is very specific to individuals and very specific to your program. And you're able to create matching options that best meet the mentee development needs. So again, we're talking about just not good matching and pairing, but the very best matching and pairing for your mentees' needs in doing that. What our online pairing tool also helps your administrators to do is to be able to do matching and pairing objectively and efficiently based on the criteria that you are going to be able to set and to be able to set up by individual or by groups of individuals. You're allowing your administrators to be much more objective in what they're doing. You're also going to increase both the quality and quantity of your mentoring matches, going back to what I just mentioned, that you're going to be able to match mentors and mentees faster so you can begin to build your mentoring program. And by doing that and being able to build the program and reduce your administration time, that automatically is going to boost your program return on investment through your administrative costs. So, you know, this is what we would like for you to do as individuals around mentoring. First of all, we would like to help you learn more about the benefits of mentoring. We'd like to help you evaluate and understand more about what a structured mentoring program can help you achieve for your organization. The first thing we can do is to help you determine whether your organization is even ready for mentoring through our MORE workshop. That MORE workshop stands for Mentoring, Organizational Readiness, and Effectiveness. We also want to be able to help you do is to implement our high-impact mentoring solution to make sure that you can propel your program success forward in what you're going to be able to do. So before we get into our questioning process, I just want to remind you that in order to receive our mentoring survey report, your complimentary copy, please take the time after we go through our questions and at the end of this webinar to complete the questionnaire at the end of this webinar. We would love to be able to send you that free copy. So at this time, Crystal, I'm going to kind of turn it back to you. And can you tell me the types of questions we're getting from our audience?
Thank you very much, Judy. And thank you very much for this presentation. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. I'm just going to wait a little bit for some of the additional questions to flow in. Okay, and I think we can start. So the first question we have, Judy, is about the difference between formal and informal mentoring. And the question is around why should we actually implement a formal mentoring program when, arguably speaking, mentoring happens all the time at most organizations?
You know, that's a great question. It really is. And you're absolutely correct. Mentoring, you know, if I was going into your organization and asked you if you had mentoring and you said no, I'd have to say, yep, I think you do. Because mentoring does go on all the time. And, you know, that would be like saying that you never had quality inside your organization until you put in TQM. But by putting in TQM, look at how it raised your quality. So it's the same thing with the difference between what we call formal and informal mentoring. And let me make a little distinction here. When we talk about formal mentoring, we're not talking about having such a structure and using the word structure as a verb so that the relationship and the partnership between the mentor and the mentee is so structured that they can't be creative and get anything done. Because we see incredibly creative solutions and ways in which mentors and mentees work together. We're using the word structure as to provide a structure or kind of an approach so that individuals, number one, get the training they need to be good mentors and mentees, that you're able to make sure you've got qualified mentors. You are able to make sure that you're tying it to business objectives and you're able to measure your results. and you are able to make sure that you've got those best mentor-mentee matches. But probably the biggest things that we talk about when you talk about the difference between formal and informal mentoring is that in informal mentoring, number one, you have no way of knowing if the time and effort the mentor and mentee are spending together is really helping the organization meet their objectives and the types of things the organization needs to move forward. Secondly, you have no way of knowing if the time and effort that the mentor and mentee are spending is giving the organization any kind of return on investment for that time and energy that's being spent on mentoring partnerships. And probably most important, without some kind of a formal mentoring structure going on, you have no idea if bad habits are being passed on. And that's probably one of the things that we find for most organizations is without some kind of a structure or approach helping mentors to be qualified, helping both mentors and mentees to be trained, is number one, you really don't have any way to know if bad habits are being passed on. But it's a really good question. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. And we have another question coming from the audience regarding some of the business goals that mentoring can help achieve. And just, I think this individual was wondering if you could give some examples of additional business goals that mentoring could achieve, because we had one example, and just wondering what you thought were additional potential business goals.
Well, a couple of things that we have seen is with some organizations, I can give you two very good examples. We had one organization that wanted to be able to reduce their training costs. And what we were able to do in working with the organization is to reduce their training costs. And because the type of development that individuals needed to receive, they were able to get through the mentoring partnerships instead of having to attend a training program or a conference or something like this. We had one organization we worked with that took this really down to finite. They measured, what it cost for someone to be off the job. They knew what that was, what travel costs were, literally just getting down to finite, and they were able to do but it had to do with reducing very specifically the amount of dollars that were spent on training. Now, we had other organizations that looked at this not from reducing the types of training dollars that were spent, but they wanted to be able to increase the number of hours of development that individuals were able to receive. And so they were able to do that. So how can we increase the number of hours of development that our people are getting? And then one other way that was kind of different that we found inside of an organization, they really wanted to be able to change their culture from very specifically the type of culture that they had, and they wanted to create a very different type of culture inside the organization. And it was going to be much more of a consultative type of organization within this particular sales and marketing division. They were a very high-tech company, and they said, how efficiently and effectively can we begin to change our culture in what we're doing. And so what we were able to do from that standpoint was we were able to identify very specifically what would the behaviors look like in this new culture, and then making sure that you had good qualified mentors, and then the measurements around that had to do with the change in behaviors over a one-year period. So there's really a lot of different ways that you can look at that. You really need to look at your organizational goals and kind of go through. You've got access to those business goals. So look at those business goals and then think about how mentoring can help you achieve those goals. And we can help you do that. But that's some examples. All three kind of very different.
Thank you, Judy. Our next question is about the mentor role profile and some competencies that mentors might really need to be successful. In your mind, how would someone go about creating that mentor role profile? And can you just give some examples of competencies that mentors might need?
We do a lot of work in addition to some of the things we do around mentoring. We also do a lot of work around job analysis and role profiling. And So that was one of the biggest ways that we started out doing this. So kind of look at it from the standpoint of a job description. Very specifically, what would you want the mentor to be able to do? And that's how we created our profile. You want to make sure that they meet with the mentee and, certain things. You want to make sure that they help the mentee create goals and objectives for their learning plans, these types of things. So again, think about it in terms of the way you would put together a job description or a role profile for any job inside of your organization. Some of the competencies that we feel are very important for a mentor or mentee, and again, you need to be sure that you are clear about the definitions as what you mean by these skills and competencies. But, things like, coaching, oral communication, written communication, listening, interpersonal skills. These are the types of things that are vital for the communication. If a mentor is going to be working with a mentee and they want to ensure the best development for that mentee, those are examples of the types of skills that the mentor needs to have. It's not just the area of expertise that the mentor has, but how are they going to get that across to the mentee? And again, these are things like listening, interpersonal, oral communication, written communication, coaching. These are just some examples of some of the skills needed by a mentor.
Thank you, Judy. Next question is regarding just comparison of mentoring with two things. One is comparing mentoring with coaching, and the other is comparing mentoring with training. Now, Judy, what do you think, in your mind, are the key differences between mentoring and coaching and mentoring and training? And specifically, how does sort of Insala's concept of mentoring differ from coaching or training?
Wow, it's a big question. So we're going to take it in pieces. First of all, some of the differences that we believe there is between coaching and mentoring. Well, first of all, we believe that mentors coach and mentors teach and train in what they're doing. A coach doesn't always mentor in what we're doing. And some of the things I'm saying about the differences between coaches and mentoring, each of you out there may have some different experiences. But what I'm telling you are the types of things that we have gathered over the years that are fairly, standard as we have talked with organizations. And again, each of you may have some different experiences. But one of the things that we've seen is usually coaching is performance-driven, and it's based very specifically on what the coach believes that the mentee needs. Now, from a mentoring standpoint, the mentor works with the mentee definitely from a performance standpoint, but it's usually more based on what the mentee wants to learn, not based necessarily on what they have to learn. In addition to that, many times you find that in a coaching situation, it is coach-driven. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, we believe in a mentoring situation, it is mentee-driven. We also believe that, again, the coach is probably much more single-focused in a certain area. And with the mentor, they're probably looking at a larger picture around development. And it's not only how the individual wants to be able to look at performance, but larger areas of their growth and development in which they're doing. So again, we believe that a mentor coaches, but a coach doesn't necessarily mentor in what they're doing in moving forward. Now, one of the things you were talking about is the difference between training and mentoring. There's training that takes place inside in mentoring partnerships. There's actual training. But when you look at it from a development standpoint, normally when you go to a training class, it's focused on a specific topic and there is specific information that is given. In addition to that, some of that information may be based on theory, because you may not be able to go to a training class that covers every single possibility for every single participant that's in the audience. So in a mentoring situation, the mentor is able to very specifically target and focus what it is he or she is teaching the mentee and make it applicable to to the mentee's job, to a project they're working on, or an assignment they're working on just at that moment. So the mentor is able to take what is used from a training program and have much more practical application. Now, we're by no means talking about the fact that you need to do away with your training program. There's very important information that comes from your training program. But we've seen several situations in which, one, what a mentor can do with a training program is, again, take the information that the mentees learned in the training program and bring it down to practical application and what that training means to the mentee in their specific job, role, assignment, or project that they're working on at that particular time. In addition to that, the other thing that we've seen where mentoring really supports training is how many times do you go to a training program and, you know, it could be a day program, it could be a 3-day program. And one of the things, unfortunately, we all know is that when you go to a training program or any type of learning, there's a 20% retention level. Now, that's gotten changed. One of the things that's happened, because we're all sitting there with our minds multitasking, we're sitting there with our BlackBerries or whatever it might be, and we're answering emails, and we're doing all these things. Many times in a training class, you'll see people with computers open and they're answering emails while they're taking a training class, all these types of things. That 20% is now down to 13. So if you're talking about a situation where I go to a training class and I've only got anywhere from a 13 to a 20% retention, there's liable to be parts of that training that I miss. So instead of going back and taking the training program again, many times I can get the development that I need from my mentor. So there's a lot of ways in which mentoring really supports your training programs as you move forward. So I hope that answers kind of that multi-level question moving forward.
Thank you, Judy. And now we have we're going to switch in gears with regards to questions that have been coming in, and we're going to address specifically mentoring technology and how it can help facilitate a mentoring process. Now, there's been some questions as to how mentoring technology and specifically Insalis technology actually works. Judy, can you describe a little bit more and take our attendees through how our technology actually works to drive results for a program?
One of the things that is very important about Insalis mentoring technology is, again, it's based on a solid methodology. If the technology is a tool that supports your mentoring methodology, and if you don't have a strong mentoring process or a strong mentoring methodology in place, no technology is going to help you. So the thing that's most important about Insalis technology is that it is based on this 20-year practical application of a proven methodology. That makes a big difference. So there are several areas in which the technology tool really helps, number one, the mentors and mentees and the administrators. So let's kind of start from the mentor and mentee side. One of the things that it does is to help reinforce any communication so that you're sure you've got consistent communication about what the organization means. So we're talking about content. So making sure that the individuals understand because they're able to go back and read content inside of the technology and to be able to understand what the organization means by that. And so they can always refer back to what's going on. The technology also supplies certain assessments. So there's certain psychometric assessments that are offered in the technology that help individuals to learn more about themselves. There are skill competency assessments that are a part of the technology that help individuals in the matching and pairing and help to find out if they're qualified to be a good mentor. There's role profiles. And then another area that is a great tool for the mentor and the mentee is there's a communication portal that provides a learning plan for the mentor and mentee to work on, a tracking process to help the mentor and mentee understand exactly what the goals are the mentee wants to work on and the progress they're making towards those goals, the activities that they're actually involved in meeting those goals. So making sure there's a good communication process between the mentor and mentee. Now, the other side of the technology, from the administrator side, the technology is a great help. We've already talked about incredibly how much it can cut down the time in the matching and pairing process, and how it can help the organization to grow their mentoring program as well as to increase their efficiency. In addition to that, it helps the administrators and concurrently the organization overall to be able to provide reports on any type of interactions between the mentors and mentees, the types of goals and objectives they're working on. And again, this goes back to making sure that you've got good metrics in place, and you're going to be able to track results and to create reports around those types of metrics and how it's tied to your business organization. It also helps to do things like administer calendars, announcements, and you can do this in a broad stroke. So you can meet a large audience all at one time. And again, being able to track the mentor and mentee pairs to understand if there's liable to be any problems, so that you can catch those problems ahead of time before there gets to be a mentor-mentee mismatch in what you're doing. So this allows the mentors and mentees from their side to have assessments, to have tools to work together, to understand exactly what it is the organization means by mentoring, and to be able to refer back to that at any point in time. From the administration side, it helps your program administrators to be able to track the mentor and mentee results, to help the mentor-mentee pairs whenever necessary, to be able to increase your the efficiency of your matching and pairing, and be able to grow your mentoring program, and to be able to provide reports to anyone throughout the organization, whatever they need to know based on those metrics and those business objectives that are set. It also, again, helps the administrator to do mass amounts of emails, do mass amounts of communication. So again, there's consistency in the communication that everyone is receiving.
Thank you, Judy. Thanks. That was a great description about what the technology generally did. Now we're just going to focus on the matching and pairing aspect, as this is what was discussed today in the webinar. And just want to get a better idea of how exactly the matching pairing and tool works, and what are the types of criteria that are most successful for matching and pairing mentees and mentors in a long-term relationship.
Okay. Well, the first thing you want to make sure that you've got, and we talked about this when we talked about our solutions, you need to make sure you've got good data. So what we do in our matching and pairing process is we have an application process where individuals can come in and they can apply to be a mentor, they can apply to be a mentee, or they can apply for both, either role or both roles in what they're doing. So the first thing you've got to do is to make sure you've got a good application process that obtains information about individuals that will help in the matching and pairing process. Then what you need to do is you need to identify exactly what is your matching and pairing criteria. Based on your business objectives and based on what it is you want to accomplish, again, going back to those success factors, what information do you need to capture to be able to know you've got good matching and pairing? So the very first thing is making sure, again, that you've got a good application process and you've got a good way to capture that data. Then after that data is captured, then what you want to be able to do is to identify the importance and the relevance and the priorities of all of that data. You're liable to collect a whole lot of data about individuals, but you don't want to make your matching and pairing process in 10 or 15 or 20 different pieces of criteria. You want to look at what is the most important out of all that information that you're collecting. What's the most important things to have as part of your matching and pairing criteria? Now, one of the things our technology allows you to do is, you could make that matching and pairing criteria different for various groups of individuals. So you might have one group of individuals that has 4 or 5 items that are part of the matching and pairing criteria, and you've got another group of individuals and they have a different matching and pairing criteria. So you actually can look at that and have different criteria for different individuals for your matching and pairing. same size does not have to fit all in what you're doing. So that's one advantage to our technology that allows you to customize that matching and pairing criteria. Then what you want to be able to do, and what you can do in our system, is not only to identify the matching and pairing criteria, but what you also want to be able to do is to prioritize what that is. So you're going to give each of those criteria some weighting. So then you need to go through and you're able to weight various criteria and put percentages of weighting. And that way you'll know that if you haven't got 100% match in a mentor-mentee matching, what do we have that's an 80% match? And so what you're able to do then, if you prioritize that and you put weighting to that, you're able to then still get your best match in what you're doing. Now, I think another part of your question, Crystal, had to do with what are some of the things that we consider to be important in the matching and pairing criteria. Well, I have to tell you that that's going to vary, and it really is going to vary based on your business and based on your business objectives and your measurements. But to give you some general ideas, some of the things that we find that are most important have to do with career levels. So what are some of the other areas that individuals want to move to in the organization? So some of your matching and pairing criteria might have to do with specific career levels that someone wants to move to. It might have to do with specific skills and competencies. So your matching and pairing criteria, we have one organization we work with, and their matching and pairing criteria is very specifically around the development of certain skills and competencies. So they have a listing of specific skills and competencies, some of which are technical, some of which are leadership. And in that process, the skills and competencies are very specific matching and pairing criteria. So we talked about the fact that it could be around a specific career position, and in addition to that, it could be around specific skills and competencies. Another area that we find becomes important in the matching and pairing has to do with specific areas of the organization that someone wants to go into. So let's say that I happen to be in marketing and I want to get into sales, or I happen to be in marketing, I want to either transfer or be a part of or even learn more about the finance area. So what other parts of the organization? So again, I have to say that it really depends. Your matching and pairing criteria is really going to be based on exactly what your business goals are and what your measurements are. But the most common things we see, again, are around career, they're around competencies, or they happen to be around specific functional areas of the organization. Those are the three that are the most common.
Thank you very much, Judy. And it looks like we're just about out of time. So let all of you, go back to your days, and just let you know that we did receive a lot of questions today. So if we weren't able to address your question directly today, we will be sending you an email with an answer to your question and a follow-up. So thank you very much, everyone, for submitting your questions. Judy, anything else?
No, just want to remind everybody to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar so that you can receive your copy of the survey report. And if you have any questions, be sure and email them to us at info@insala.com or visit our website at mentoring@insala.com. Thank you very much, and everyone have a good day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.